Hello Midnights. Up next, the chilling canvas, how the Pale Lady embodies our ancient horrors. Let us know where you are listening from and don't forget to subscribe. Thank you for tuning in. The old manor stood silent against the bruised sky, its windows like vacant eyes staring out over the overgrown grounds. I remember the day vividly, a foolish teenage quest to spend a night in its decaying grandeur. We snuck in, a nervous huddle of flashlights, the air thick with dust and the smell of damp earth. As the hours crept on, a chill that had nothing to do with the draft began to settle. Then, I saw her. Not clearly, not overtly, but a fleeting impression in the periphery of my vision, a whisper of movement at the end of the long, shadowed hallway. A form, ethereally slender, impossibly pale, seeming to drift rather than walk. There were no discernible features, just an overwhelming sense of absence, a vital color leached away, leaving behind a profound and chilling void. My breath caught, a cold knot tightening in my stomach. She didn't speak, didn't move overtly towards me, but the sheer, unsettling presence of that spectral pallor was enough. It was a terror born not of a monstrous roar, but of an unsettling quiet, a haunting stillness that permeated the very stones of the house and, for a long moment, my very being. We fled that night, not from a jump scare, but from the unsettling, lingering impression of something profoundly other, something that had bled the life out of the air around it. That fleeting glimpse of the Pale Lady was my first, visceral encounter with the archetype, a chilling introduction to the idea that some horrors reside not in what's seen, but in the profound absence of light and life. The Pale Lady, an ethereal and unsettling archetype, transcends mere gothic imagery to become a profound exploration of humanity's deepest fears and liminal spaces between life and death. Her spectral pallor, a visual negation of vitality, is far more than a stylistic choice, it's a profound symbol of absence, loss, and the chilling proximity of the grave. She isn't merely a ghost but a living metaphor for the impermanence of existence and the lingering echoes of what once was. Her connection to horror and myth lies in her ability to tap into universal anxieties surrounding decay, memory, and the uncomfortable truth that death isn't an end but, for some, a haunting continuation. She represents the unseen scar tissue of time, a constant, subtle pressure on the human psyche. To truly grasp the profound impact of the Pale Lady, one must first understand the concept of archetypes. Drawing from Carl Jung's theory of the collective unconscious, archetypes are universal, archaic patterns and images inherited and present in all cultures. As Carl Jung himself posited, the contents of the collective unconscious are known as archetypes. Primordial types, that is, with universal images that have existed since the remotest times. The Pale Lady functions as a potent archetype, tapping into a shared human understanding of qualities such as loss, dread, and the paradoxical nature of the feminine as both nurturing and destructive. These archetypal figures provide a powerful shorthand for creators, allowing them to evoke specific emotional responses and deeper meanings in their audience, as these images resonate with inherent psychological structures already present within us. This archetypal resonance is precisely why the Pale Lady can appear in such diverse forms across media and cultures, from the silent, gliding figure in a classic horror film to the subtly unsettling presence in a folk tale or a nightmare. She speaks to something primal and innate within us, bypassing conscious thought to tap directly into our deepest insecurities about mortality and what lies beyond. Her very form, stripped of vibrant detail, acts as a blank canvas for our anxieties, allowing each individual to project their unique fears of loss, the unknown, and the inevitable passage of time onto her spectral image. In horror, the Pale Lady is a master of psychological torment, her power often residing in what's unseen and unsaid. Unlike the visceral, overt threats of many monstrous entities, her terror is insidious, a slow creeping dread that infiltrates the mind. Her pallor, often described as a milky white or a deathly gray, strips away the warmth and color of life, leaving behind a stark, almost clinical, representation of decay. This visual cue triggers a primal discomfort, reminding us of the fragility of our own flesh and the inevitable dissolution awaiting us. The horror she evokes is frequently rooted in liminality, the state of being in between, transitional, or ambiguous. She appears in thresholds, at the edges of perception, in mirrors, or in the periphery of vision. This unsettling presence blurs the lines between reality and nightmare, sanity and madness, a hallmark of psychological horror. Her silence, or the faint, mournful whispers attributed to her, further amplifies this terror, as the absence of conventional communication forces the mind to fill the void with its darkest imaginings, projecting anxieties onto her enigmatic form. She is the embodiment of the unheimlich, the uncanny, that which is simultaneously familiar and alien, comforting and terrifying. As Sigmund Freud articulated in his seminal essay The Uncanny, 1919, the uncanny is in reality nothing new or alien, but something which is familiar and old, established in the mind, and which has become alienated from it only through the process of repression. This precisely describes the Pale Lady's effect. She feels deeply familiar as a representation of death and loss, yet terrifying because that familiarity has been repressed and now returns in a spectral, unsettling form. This emphasis on internal states and the fragility of the human mind sets her apart from more overt threats, making her a purveyor of deep-seated dread. Her ability to warp perception or induce a sense of disorientation in her victims further reinforces this psychological attack, leaving them questioning their own sanity rather than facing a tangible foe. The horror isn't in a physical assault but in the erosion of certainty, the slow decay of the mind as it grapples with an entity that defies logic and natural awe. This makes her particularly effective in modern horror, where the most terrifying threats often originate from within the human mind itself. Her mythical roots are interwoven with the tapestry of human grief and the ancient impulse to personify the forces of nature and fate. The Pale Lady draws from a global lexicon of female personifications of death and sorrow, echoing beliefs that span continents and millennia. For instance, the Irish Banshee, from the Irish Banshee, meaning woman of the side or fairy folk, is not merely a wailer but often a beautiful, albeit terrifying, spectral woman whose cries foretell a death in the family. Her connection to ancient keening women who would ritually lament the dead emphasizes a cultural link between feminine mourning and the announcement of demise, acting as a direct bridge between the living and the spirit world. This figure, often seen combing her long, pale hair, evokes a chilling blend of beauty and sorrow that perfectly encapsulates the Pale Lady. In Latin American folklore, La Llorona, the weeping woman, is a chilling example of the Pale Lady archetype intertwined with profound maternal grief and rage. Her pallid complexion is not just a sign of death, but often specifically of her watery demise, as she drowned her children and now wanders near rivers and lakes, eternally grieving and sometimes snatching living children to replace her lost ones. This myth delves into the deepest anxieties about motherhood, loss, and the eternal torment of unforgivable acts, manifesting a specific form of spectral agony that is profoundly relatable yet terrifying. Slavic mythology presents Marzanna, also known as Morena, Morana, or Mara, a goddess associated with winter, death, and rebirth. Often depicted as a pale, skeletal figure or a straw effigy, she represents the harshness and dormancy of winter, yet her effigy is ritually drowned or burned in spring to welcome warmth and new life. This dual nature of destruction and necessary transition reinforces the idea that even the most terrifying aspects of death are a part of a larger cycle, with the Pale Lady representing the inevitable, cold phase. Her annual ritualistic demise connects directly to the seasonal cycle of life and death, making her a more ancient and elemental personification of decay. From Norse mythology, Hela, the grim ruler of Helheim, the underworld, offers another powerful parallel. She is famously depicted with one half of her body beautiful and alive, the other half decayed and dead, a stark visual representation of her liminal nature. She is the sovereign of the dead, a figure of authority over those who did not die gloriously in battle, emphasizing the universal truth that death encompasses all, regardless of earthly status. Her pallor, at least on one side, is a constant reminder of her domain, reflecting a deeper philosophical understanding of death as an integral, if unsettling, part of existence. Joseph Campbell, a renowned mythologist, in Goddesses, Mysteries of the Feminine Divine, spoke of the goddess's three functions: 1. To give us life, 2. To be the one who receives us in death, and 3. To inspire our spiritual, poetic realization. The Pale Lady, though terrifying, fulfills the second of these functions, representing the inescapable receiver of souls, making her a potent, albeit dark, aspect of the divine feminine in the human psyche. Beyond these well-known figures, the Pale Lady can be seen in countless local legends: the White Lady of European castles, eternally searching for a lost love or child, forever bound to a tragic past; the specters of women who died in childbirth, haunting the homes they left behind as sorrowful reminders of brief lives and unfulfilled promises; or the chilling death maidens found in some Asian mythologies, elegant yet terrifying figures who guide or even tempt souls to the afterlife, often possessing an otherworldly pallor. The shared symbolism of pallor or lack of color in these figures across cultures universally signifies the draining of life, decay, and the coldness of death. It's a powerful visual shorthand for being unalive, separated from the vibrant world, or intimately connected to the realm of the dead. The Pale Lady can be seen as an archetypal distillation of these myths, stripped down to her most potent and terrifying elements. She is the personification of unresolved sorrow, the lingering presence of those who could not find peace, and the embodiment of the chilling truth that some wounds transcend death. Her connection to myth isn't merely about direct lineage but about echoing universal anxieties surrounding loss, the persistent memory of the departed, and the inexplicable nature of the supernatural. She embodies the fear of the unknown, the fragile boundaries between worlds, and the unsettling notion that the past can never truly be buried. Furthermore, the recurring motif of a female figure signifies a deeper cultural understanding of death not just as an ending, but as a transitional process often associated with gestation, birth, and transformation, a dark mirror to the life-giving aspects of the feminine, hinting at the cyclical nature of existence even in its most terrifying manifestations. Furthermore, the profundity of the Pale Lady lies in her often tragic backstory, which elevates her beyond a simple monster to a figure of complex, albeit terrifying, pathos. Whether she's a woman betrayed, a mother mourning a lost child, a victim of forgotten injustice, or a spirit yearning for a love lost, her pallor and spectral form are often the physical manifestations of profound, unassuaged suffering. This adds a crucial layer of empathy to her terror, making her not just a monstrous figure but a spectral echo of human pain and unresolved trauma. This nuanced portrayal creates a deeper, more unsettling connection with the audience, as her horror becomes inextricably entwined with our own capacity for sorrow and our understanding of human suffering. We fear her not just for what she might do, but for what she represents, the enduring power of grief, the consequences of injustice, and the chilling possibility that our own pain could tether us to a restless eternity. She forces us to confront the uncomfortable truth that the line between victim and aggressor can blur in the spectral realm, and that some tragedies leave wounds so deep they transcend the very concept of mortality. This approach is a cornerstone of psychological horror, which often uses grief, trauma, and unresolved emotional pain as the wellspring of its terror. It relies less on external gore and more on the internal fragility of the human psyche, sometimes employing unreliable narrators or distorting perception to heighten the feeling of dread and madness. As Virginia Woolf astutely observed in her essay on Gothic literature, it is at the ghosts within us that we shudder. The Pale Lady's elusive nature and her effect on witnesses can play into this, making her a potent symbol of deep-seated mental anguish. Her suffering, in a terrifying paradox, becomes contagious, infecting the minds of those she encounters with a sliver of her own eternal despair, demonstrating how deeply empathy can intertwine with dread. She is a living, haunting testament to the idea that pain, particularly unaddressed pain, possesses an insidious longevity, capable of reaching across the veil between worlds. The enduring archetype of the Pale Lady is deeply intertwined with historical events and trends, reflecting societal anxieties, cultural shifts, and the collective memory of trauma. Her various manifestations throughout history offer a fascinating lens through which to view human responses to adversity and change. For centuries, epidemics and plagues have shaped the form and fear associated with the Pale Lady. During devastating outbreaks like the Black Death in medieval Europe or later ravages of cholera, tuberculosis, often called consumption, and smallpox, victims would frequently become emaciated and deathly pale before succumbing. This created a powerful visual association between pallor and death, making the Pale Lady a natural personification of the invisible, creeping death that swept through communities. The widespread fear of contagion and the often inexplicable nature of these diseases fueled narratives of a silent, insidious killer. In the 18th and 19th centuries, the pervasive nature of tuberculosis even led to a morbid consumptive chic, where the pallor, delicate features, and ethereal appearance of sufferers were paradoxically romanticized, further embedding the image of the pale, gaunt figure as one connected to both beauty and impending doom, a tragic ideal of fragile mortality. Similarly, war and famine have contributed significantly to the Pale Lady's historical resonance. Periods of immense conflict throughout history, leading to mass casualties and often unburied dead, provide a fertile ground for ghost stories and spectral figures. The Pale Lady can represent the collective souls of those who died tragically, violently, or without proper rites, forever restless and seeking peace. Instances of severe famine, such as the Irish Great Famine in the 19th century, left populations ravaged by starvation, resulting in widespread emaciation and a ghastly pallor. Survivors carried profound psychological scars, and the memory of their loved ones wasting away to pale shadows would have solidified the image of the Pale Lady as a specter of hunger, desolation, and the Gothic horror of extreme suffering. These historical specters become embodied nightmares, whispering of forgotten atrocities and persistent injustices. Furthermore, the Pale Lady reflects evolving societal roles and the anxieties surrounding women. Especially during periods like the Victorian era, with its rigid societal expectations for women, Gothic literature frequently featured tormented female figures. Women who deviated from societal norms, or those who suffered abuse, loss, or madness, were often marginalized or confined. The Pale Lady can be seen as a spectral manifestation of these suppressed anxieties and injustices, representing the fallen woman driven to despair and death by societal judgment, or women who succumbed to childbirth complications, common illnesses of the period, or who simply withered under the weight of constrained lives. She becomes a haunting reminder of the fragility of female existence within restrictive historical contexts. This also ties into the historical perception of women as more emotionally fragile or susceptible to supernatural influence, further cementing her as a figure of spectral distress, a haunting outcry against systemic oppression. Finally, the Pale Lady's prevalence is also linked to changing beliefs about the afterlife and grief. As Western societies gradually moved away from purely religious explanations for death, particularly from the 19th century onwards, new cultural mechanisms for processing grief emerged. The rise of spiritualism, for instance, reflected a widespread desire to connect with the deceased. Ghost stories, including those featuring pale, mournful figures, offered a cultural space to process loss, confront the fear of the unknown, and acknowledge the enduring presence of memory outside traditional religious frameworks. Across various historical periods, the belief that spirits linger due to unfinished business or profound trauma has been a consistent thread. Whether she is a woman who died unjustly, a mother separated from her children, or a victim of violence, the Pale Lady becomes a powerful symbol of unresolved historical wounds, reflecting a societal need to acknowledge and perhaps atone for past wrongs. She serves as a chilling testament to the persistent human need to confront, rather than merely forget, the darker chapters of our collective past. Ultimately, the Pale Lady is the ghost in the machine of human memory and collective trauma. Just as a glitch or residual data can haunt a complex system, she is the enduring error code, the unerasable fragment of past suffering, imprinted onto the cultural consciousness. Her pallor is the screen burn of agony, a permanent mark left by overwhelming loss and injustice. She is not merely a creature of myth, she is the psychological manifestation of our inability to fully process or escape the profound impact of historical anguish, forever running in the background, subtly influencing our present fears. Consider the Pale Lady as an echo within a vast, silent chamber of human history. Each tragedy, each unresolved grief, each widespread terror creates a unique sound wave. These waves don't simply dissipate, instead, they bounce off the walls of time, intermingling, reinforcing, and creating a perpetual, haunting resonance. The Pale Lady is the manifestation of this collective resonance, a spectral form shaped by the reverberations of countless sorrows. She is the chilling answer to an unasked question, the phantom presence born from the collective unconscious processing unbearable truths. In this historical echo chamber, the past is never truly silent, it merely waits for the right conditions to manifest its most unsettling reflections. This makes her an enduring and deeply unsettling figure, a testament to how the shadows of the past continue to shape our present and future anxieties, often in ways we don't consciously perceive, but profoundly feel. Her persistent presence serves as a spectral Rosetta Stone, offering a silent, chilling translation of historical suffering into an universally understood language of dread and poignant loss.